Welcome to another episode of They Not Like Us. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we've got an incredible conversation lined up. But before we dive in, I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on the powerful stories, insights, and advice we bring to you every week. Whether you're tuning in for inspiration, to learn from top leaders, or just for some real unfiltered conversations, subscribing is the best way to stay connected with everything happening on the show. Plus, by subscribing, you're joining a growing community of listeners who are ready to push past the noise and create real change in their lives and businesses. So hit that button, leave a review, and let's dive into today's episode.
Hello, welcome back to They Not Like Us. I'm your host, Aaron, and with me today, I've got Robert J. Hunt. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure to have you on. Can you tell people a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, I'm married to the most beautiful woman in any room. We've been married 26 years yesterday, and she's my best friend, and she's cool. We have two adult children. Lauren is in Austin area, Austin, Texas, and she's 33 and is married to Dylan. And then James is 22. He still lives at home, going to UT Dallas here, finishing up his degree. We moved to Texas in 2010, but I grew up in Southern California, and I run peer groups for business owners. I bring together business owners every month to work through their problems and to find solutions and encourage each other in the journey. I've been doing that for 11 years, and I love that. In addition to that, I do executive coaching and leadership development to support my clients and their goals. And I wrote this book about accountability in 2022 with my friend Salem Thine. We co-authored it together, and we are wanting the world to understand about the freedom and power of accountability. And that's my big focus these days, is taking this out to the world so they can see that accountability is not a bad thing. Accountability is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But what kind of sparked your interest then in and your passion for accountability?
Well, I do it for a living. These peer groups are where people come into a group. They pay me money to sit in a room with a bunch of other business leaders, and they share their issues, their challenges, their concerns, and the group helps them work through their thoughts. And it gives people a place to be accountable. You know, as a leader, if you're not accountable, if you're not being vulnerable and transparent to other people, you could be making really bad decisions and nobody knows about it because you just kind of, it's your company, do whatever you want. But people don't really know what is excellence and what you should be doing because you don't declare it. You just kind of, keep it to yourself and you go along as you go. When you sit in a room with a bunch of other business leaders who know the difference between some story you're making up and what is excellence in business, they'll call you out. Hey, that's not right. You don't do that. So you're creating this world of accountability by being in that. And so I've watched people who do it really well and how they have success. And I've watched people who avoid accountability and the struggles that they face. And so that led me to want to write this book that Salem and I had been talking about the principles of accountability for about a year, and just really feel like people weren't getting it. It seems like we've lost the idea of accountability in this world. And so we wanted to bring it back. We want to help people understand it's not a bad thing. It's not something to avoid. It's actually hope and freedom and power and good things when you understand what it really is.
Absolutely, and it can transform your life, right? If you get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, we know what it looks like when you get it wrong. And I think the question would be, what does it really look like when you get it right? And to me, what I've seen with leaders and in my own life is it's satisfaction in life. I think we've kind of given up that you don't have the right to really enjoy your life the way you would like to. You just kind of figure, I'll try and optimize the crappy one I ended up with, instead of stepping back and going, well, what do I really want my life to look like? And people don't believe they have the right to pursue their dreams, or even just the quality of life that they really think they should have. And they just resolve to take the cruddy job, stick it out in a cruddy marriage, have bratty kids, have your finances in the toilet, have your health in the toilet, and you just do the best you can. But that's not the life you really want. So I know what it looks like to pursue it. It's satisfaction. It's joy and contentment in your life. I've seen it in my own life. I've modeled it. I've practiced it, and I teach it to my clients, and they're doing the same thing.
Yeah. How do people overcome the resistance to self accountability then? Because it's natural, I think. Is it natural? Maybe we've just grown and been kind of
Yeah.
learned that way, but we kind of always want to blame somebody else or something else for our faults or for something going wrong. We're always looking for
Right.
something to blame or someone to blame. So how do we get over that, initial resistance to accountability?
Yeah. The first thing is to be aware when you're doing it, because you don't even, it's so normal that we blame or make excuses or say we can't or just wait and hope it gets better. It's normal. That's what people do. So when you do it, they're like, yeah, okay, that's cool. And then we use some key words that are magical phrases that keep us as a victim, like it's outside my comfort zone. I don't feel comfortable with that. And we go, oh, yeah, I get it. Okay. But if you were to say, oh, I'm afraid to do that, we're like, dude, man up, let's go. But because we say it as a comfort zone, we really we get the blank check to not do something. And so we are so comfortable with it, it's hard to get over it. So we have to first do is identify when we're doing it. You have to look at your situation. And this is why in the book, we ask you to take a satisfaction assessment. There's 2 wheels with little pie charts in them. And you score in your personal and your professional life, how satisfied you are in different areas. And if you be really, really honest, you look at that and you go, okay, I'm not happy with my marriage. I'm not happy with my finances. I don't like the way we market our company. I don't like the way that our clients treat us. And you really write them all out. You declare them on a piece of paper and you look at that and you go, okay, that's my life. That's my business and my personal life right in front of me. Now, why am I not satisfied? And then when you start to write down the reasons why you're not satisfied, you see blame and excuse and saying, I can't do anything about it. And you think, well, that'll get better next year. Maybe my marriage will get better all of a sudden, but you're not going to counseling. You're not talking about anything. You're not doing anything about it. Somehow it's going to magically get better. It's not, man. It's going to get worse. So the starting point is for you to be honest with yourself. And that's why we have the assessment in the book.
Yeah, it's that honesty with yourself is important for people, and I think a lot of us aren't honest with ourselves, and a lot of us, kid ourselves or sometimes just hide from it.
I don't know why, other than it's awkward, really, when you think about it, you don't want to admit anything. The problem with not admitting it is nothing gets better. If you had cancer and you didn't tell anybody, you'll still have cancer and then you'll just die from it. So there you go. And if you have a drinking problem and you're an alcoholic and you don't tell anyone about it, you'll probably stay an alcoholic and then you'll probably die from that too. But if you really, 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 really want to change, then you got to talk about it. You got to own it. And you got to let the world know this is something that I'm not happy with. This is not the way I want to live. And the reason you have to let people know is because you'll back out of it. It's like you're going to be on a diet. I'm going to lose weight. I got to lose weight. I'm not going to eat any junk food for a year. And then like a week into it, your buddy has a party and there's all this pizza and chips. And you're like, well, tonight I'll just have pizza and chips. But nobody knows you were going to try and lose weight. So nobody can go, I know you're trying to lose weight. So I brought this salad for you. I can support you. And you know what? John's on a diet. So let's not have pizza tonight. Let's all make sushi. They could join you in the journey. They're not going to do it for you, but they can support you. And they can ask you, how's the weight loss going? Hey, you want to work out with me? When you invite people into your journey, it gives you a chance to stick with it. Otherwise, we let ourselves off the hook and we give up. That's why we've got to put it in writing and we've got to invite people into our journey so that we stay true to what we want to be.
Yeah, I think we always look for the path of least resistance, don't we? So I think it's our job, if we're trying to be accountable, is to, make that path that we want to go down, more accessible and remove some of the resistance
Easier.
along that path.
Yeah. It
So
seems easier, but it's not, because you have to live with the consequences. Key to this whole concept of accountability is that our actions have consequences. But I think in this world, we don't see a connection to our behavior and our consequences. All of a sudden, we're out of money. We're like, hey, my company doesn't pay me enough money. But you spent all the money you had. You got money from them. When you took the job, you liked the money they were giving you. You thought that was fine. But then when you don't manage your well, you want to blame your company. They're not giving me enough money. Well, they give you as much as they agreed when they hired you. So what you think is an easier way usually turns out to be harder, because the ripple effect of us not owning something means other things get broken, other things happen. If I don't work on my marriage, it affects my kids, and then my kids are unruly. And if I have problems in my marriage, I have mental health and stress and strife that causes problems. There's a ripple effect in not owning it. It's a lot easier actually to own it, because when I take accountability for something, I gain the power to do something about it. Otherwise, everything, I'm a victim. Oh, it's not my fault. Oh, this guy's this. I have a terrible boss. All these things that we do, we're a victim in that mode and we're helpless. But when I own it, man, I can do something about it.
Yeah, we were it's the short term in it. So we take the easy option, which is easier in the short term, but over the
Right.
medium and long term, we then pay for it because you know there's consequences to taking the easy route all the time, and you know you will pay for it eventually.
We didn't really think about it ourselves. In our book, we outlined the story. It was very subtle. We owed $90,000 in debt at one point. And that does not include the house or the cars. And it didn't start out at 90. It was like, $5,000 on some credit cards. And then it was, I couldn't pay the government tax I owed for the business. And then every year it'd go up 10, 20, 30. It took a long time to get to $90,000. But it seemed at the time the easier thing to go, well, I'll pay that next year. I'll come up with a payment plan. And that's waiting and hoping. Making minimum payments on your credit cards is waiting and hoping that somehow you're going to have this huge windfall, like a big fat bonus at work that'll cover all your debts. But if you get a big fat bonus at work, what do you do with it? You go on a vacation and you put more on your credit cards and you make it even worse. And so this kicking it down the line, seemed like an easy solution to the fix. And then somehow magically things were going to get better, and they never did. And it just got worse. And we inherited a really bad situation.
Yeah, that's not ideal. Sounds like a tough spot to be in, to be fair.
It was. And that's part of the journey of accountability. So in the book, we talk about when you realize that you have to be accountable for something, the first thing you do is you blame. So I blamed my business. I blamed the government. I blamed the franchise I worked for. I blame my clients. And if that doesn't work, we make excuses. Well, I don't know how to sell. I'm not a good sales guy. I can't get any more business than I'm getting. That's my excuse. But I could go get sales training, which I later on did. And it totally proves I'm actually a really great sales guy. But I didn't learn the systems process, so I made an excuse. And if those things don't work, we just say, well, I can't do anything about it. It's just what I am. I got all these bills. What am I going to do? Well, you could sell your house. Well, I can't do that. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I sold my house. I took all the money and we paid off all our debt. And come April of 2020, when COVID shut down the world, we owed no money to anybody. And the peace that we had was amazing. I forgot what it felt like to be in peace. Every day I'd get up and say, if I just work my butt off all day, I'm still broke. What's the point? It felt so helpless and hopeless. And then the last thing we do when we say we blame, make excuses, say we can't, is we just wait and hope. And we waited and hoped that every year it would get better, and it got worse and worse and worse until we finally got to a place in our lives where we said, wait, nobody cares if I'm broke, fat, unhappy with my marriage, have problems with my friendships. Nobody cares until I do. And when I care enough to do something about it, things will change. And that's what we did. We decided we were sick of being buried in debt, and we took responsibility for it, and we made a decision to sell the house. So in the second half of the book, we teach you how to go once you've hit that magical moment of realizing nobody cares. We teach you how to go on and solve the problem.
Yeah, this it's key to people in it to move forward. I don't think you can, truly be happy and, at peace with yourself if you're not willing to take that accountability. If you're always blaming somebody else, if you're always in that victim mindset, I don't think you'll ever be happy, because you'll always be looking for somebody and something to blame whenever anything goes wrong. And it's life, so things always go wrong.
Yeah. And I think we're so used to it that it just seems normal. I don't think anyone says, I'd like to be a victim, please. But they do. They act that way and they don't recognize it anymore. Think of the last thing you blamed. If you were late to a meeting, what did you blame? Traffic. Your alarm clock didn't go off, right? You didn't see the note. That's an excuse. I didn't see the note that said we're meeting in this building, so I went to the other building. That's an excuse. You should pay attention. We have had a meeting every week. Why did you not pay attention? It's very simple to look at the reasons why we're unhappy. It's us. We're doing it to ourselves. We're living a life full of blame and excuses and saying, I can't do anything about it. And you're a prisoner, but you don't see yourself as a prisoner. You just see yourself as getting screwed by the world. You're not. You're screwing yourself. That's all you, baby. You own it. But the cool part is, not to depress you, the cool part is that once you own it, you can do something about it. And to me, that was very inspiring. That was very encouraging that, hey, we got into this mess. We can get out of it. And we did. Yeah.
That's what taking accountability is, isn't it? It's taking the power back, really.
Yeah. 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 That's the great way to say it. Take the power back. Yeah. And on the other side of that, once you own it, and you have a plan, you can go through with it. It may suck, but so is being a victim. And it may be something you have to really work a while for, but you can find a solution and you can make it happen. And when you're in that mode of solving your problem, you'll be surprised how many people will come around you and encourage you and support you because you want to better your life. And then you'll figure out how to do it on that one and you'll conquer it and you'll go find another one you're not satisfied and you will conquer that. And then the list goes on. And we went to marriage counseling to work on our marriage. And I started going to the gym and working out because I was super fat. And I was like, I'm not healthy. I'm not happy with my weight, but I didn't want to do anything about it because I can't. I'm just fat. Well, yeah, you can. You can stop eating and drinking so much. And you go to the gym once in a while and go for a walk. And all those things that I wasn't willing to do were just holding me a prisoner. So you have the right to do it. You have the opportunity. And that's exciting because that means life's going somewhere.
Absolutely. What's the hardest truth you've had to face, Robert, in your kind of journey towards this accountability?
The hardest truth that I would face or anybody in the journey?
You faced personally.
I think the hardest truth was that I had to admit to the world and people in my life that I didn't do a good job. It's embarrassing to have to admit to companies who hire you to help them work on their business and get things done and be better, to have to say, yeah, I screwed up big time and I owe $90,000 and I'm broke. And you look like a failure. That's how I felt. And I was a failure. I had failed to do the responsible thing, to be accountable for my debt. That was hard. And when you put the house up for sale and neighbors come by and go, where are you going? Where are you guys moving to? Well, we're going to find a place to rent and downsize because we're going to sell the house and use the money to pay off our debt and start over. They weren't ready for an honest answer like that. But I had to tell people because I had to own it. And so there's a lot of pride there. Pride is what kills most relationships. I don't want to hurt your feelings. You and I have been friends forever. And I don't want to say, dude, your breath is really bad. Or, dude, you smell a lot. You smell sometimes. You ever think about putting on deodorant? We don't want to have awkward conversations. So we just kind of work around it and we make things even more awkward. And we actually don't help the person we really supposed to care about. So I think for me, it really was that moment where I realized part of owning it was telling the world that I screwed up.
Yeah, owning it is so important because we're terrible for that as well. We're terrible for making out to the outside world that we're doing really well, and we'll have these cars on finance, or we'll have a nice house, or everything
Yeah.
looks great from the outside, and we like to keep that facade, don't we? To pretend that actually everything's great when the matter of fact we're probably struggling a bit behind closed doors.
Yeah, and I know in this world everybody supports you being in debt. There's a whole industry that supports you being in debt, but everybody out there's got some kind of debt. And it used to be that it was rare, but now it's so common. You graduate high school, they're throwing credit card offers at you like crazy, and you just keep going up. So I understand that probably very few people in the world will be able to put cash down for a house. And some people could buy their car cash outright, but most of the people are going to take on a loan. And I get that. But you have to be able to maintain that debt and make a plan to get out of it aggressively. I would love for people to save up the money and only have one car until they get the money saved up. But if you have to have a second car and you buy it, then you've got a plan, but you could aggressively pay it off. The problem is we're just so comfortable with debt that we start with more than we should, and then we just keep going. We're not being accountable to financial stewardship. I mean, God gives you all this money. It's not just for you to squander on yourself. There's a lot of people out there that have need, and we're so broke we can't help one another. So if we actually want to be good, responsible citizens, we need to care for the world around us. But if we waste all our dough, there's no way to help someone who's in need. And some of us can make more money than other people. That means we can use that extra money to give graciously to others. But if we don't take good care of it, then it's not able to help other people. I mean, that's a very selfish way to live your life.
Yes. Maybe it's a patience thing because we want to borrow the money so we can have the nice things now rather than have that patience to work for it, get into a solid position where we can afford it comfortably.
Yeah, we're an instant gratification society, microwave ovens, and I want everything right now. Amazon delivers to my house in 4 hours. It's just kind of the world we're in right now. But my wife and I are really trying to reevaluate how we look at money. We still have one car. We have had one car for 2.5 years now, and it's hard. Sometimes we have to coordinate. What time are you gonna be home? Okay, I need to leave at 1 o'clock. Come on back by 1 o'clock so I can get to my meeting. Or other times I take an Uber, and sometimes I take an Uber to an event, and I'll say, "Hey, give me a ride home," and it's kind of cheesy, but I get to hang with that person and talk on the ride home and talk about how's your family, what's going on. So I'm getting some extra time with people. And I could be prideful and be embarrassed about that, but I'm not. I'm not trying to be poor. I have money. I could buy another car, but I'm 61. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to work. I'd like to work till I die, but at some point, if I'm running a meeting and I start forgetting people's names, who are you? Who are you? I can't be doing that forever. So I got to start thinking about how do I put money away for the future. So, if we live for a car for an extra year more, that's just more money that goes in the savings for the future. And we're not hurting. We still have a car. Dude, there's people who take a bus everywhere. Some people can't afford the bus. They got to walk to work. I mean, we're really blessed. The people who are watching your podcast, they're making more money than most of the people in the world. None of us are going out looking for water or food today. We're really rich. We just need to settle down a little bit. Enjoy what you have. God's been so kind to give you health and a job and money and place to live. Even if it's not great, you still live somewhere. Some people don't even have that.
Yeah, I think we forget about the rest of the world, and we're in that competition with what we see immediately in front of us, aren't we? With our peer group, with what we see on Instagram and social media and stuff like that, and that's why everybody wants to seem like they're winning and present this picture that they're doing really well or that they
Right.
are thriving. When who cares, man? Who cares?
Yeah. If you're in a hospital and you're in a row of beds, no one knows how much money the other people make. They just know that they're in the hospital. And when it comes down to it, we're all the same. There's a story in the Bible where God gives 5 talents to one dude, 3 talents to another dude, and the master does, and 1 to this other dude. And then he goes away and he comes back later on and says, "What'd you do with my money?" And we're given so much by God. He's expecting us to do something well with it and not just hoard it to ourselves. We're all the same. Some people are super rich. It's a fact. And then the rest of the world, the majority of the world is just okay. And there's a lot of the world that is not getting by at all. And that's just truth. But no matter where you are and whatever substrate you're in, class of life or whatever, you still got to be responsible with it. You still got to take what God's given you and do the best you can with it, because that's still good stewardship and that's your accountability.
Yeah, I think I gotta say I wasn't great when I was younger. I was, I'd squandered a lot and bought things unnecessarily, and I was in that kind of lifestyle where I was, trying to appear like I was doing well when actually would have been better off being sensible with it, and which I am now. I'm very, much more reserved with my money and plan for the future and have investments and try to do things in a way that I can pass on to my kids and I can look after other people, that my parents are getting older and things like that. So these are all things that I think about now, which I wish I thought about it when I was younger.
When you think about it from that side of society and life, when you're accountable to your finances, you don't become a burden to your family or to the society you live in. But if I take all the money I make and I just party, then I buy a bunch of stuff which all breaks down and burns up and gets stolen and whatever. And at the end of my life, when I'm getting older and I don't have enough money because I didn't save any money because I partied with it, I'm going to go to the hospital and get free hospital care. Well, who pays for that hospital care? We do. So that's all coming out of everyone else's pockets because you weren't responsible with your life. You didn't take accountability for your future. And then when you don't have a place to live, where do you go? You live somewhere the state provides you a place to live. Well, who pays for that? So you and I are eating the lack of accountability to the world around us. Now, that's called charity. And it used to be that we just cared for one another because we were kind and we were unselfish. But now we've expected the government to do it, and the government sucks at doing that. And so we're going to ask them to do something that all of society should be doing anyway. We should be caring for one another, looking out for each other, inviting someone to come and live at your house when they can't afford it. But because of the way the world is now, you can't have someone come and live at your house because they fall and break their leg, they sue you. And the courts allow you to get sued, you lose your house. So there's all these things that are just making everything so complicated anymore because people aren't taking accountability for their own lives. That's the starting point. Own your own life and then build out from there.
Absolutely. It's key for people to do that. And you see so many people don't do it. I experience it every day where people are just making excuses constantly. And how do you break through to those people?
For me, I have them take the assessment. And so you can go to my website, nobodycaresbook.com. And for free, you can take our assessment. We don't ask for your information. We don't know anything about you. It's just your deal. And you can score your satisfaction in your personal, professional life. And then print it out on a piece of paper, and then you can throw it away so no one ever sees what your life's like. But take a minute and look at it and be honest with yourself. If you're not happy with something, what would it look like to go work on that? I mean, would it be better if you had a marriage where you felt like there was hope again, that you liked being together in the same family? What if you had health that was back to when you were younger and you could do things and you're not stuck in a chair all the time because your knees don't work because you're overweight? What if you had enough money to be able to actually not have stress and worry all the time? And so look at those things and then be aware of how you're holding yourself back by checking, am I blaming? Am I making excuses? Am I saying I can't, or am I waiting and hoping? And then remember the vision of where you want to go, what life could be like. Really, it's all about comparison. If you're here and you want to be here, it's up to you. It's not hard. It's not complicated. Most of the decisions actually really appear to us when our mind gets clear, when we actually believe there's a hope and a future. We actually are very creative. But when we feel hopeless and that there's no chance of getting better, we don't see ideas. We don't see solutions. That's why you have to invite someone into your journey, because they don't have the emotion attached to your problems that you do. And when you write it all out and you say, this is where I'm not satisfied and why, and then you show it to someone, they go, oh, dude, why don't you just do this? Never thought of that. So I think the way to get over it is just to cast a vision of where you want your life to be. And we always say, when the pain of where you are is worse than the pain of where it will take to go where you want to go, you'll change. And that's what it was for us. The pain of where we were was miserable. And the pain of selling our house and start over was nothing compared to the stress that we carried every day.
Yeah, and you said in there about, comparison, comparing where you're at now and where you want to be. And I think that is key when you start looking at yourself and not comparing where other people are and where you are, because I think that's a really dangerous game when you start looking at where other people are and comparing yourself to other people, because they've got a different journey to you. They've had a different,
They do.
background, different story, different things going on in their life. You've got
Yeah.
to look at yourself and just keep it about you.
And it's impossible to compare it, because let's say they got a lot of money. Are they happy? Do they have a great marriage? Do their kids like them? Do they have a relationship with God? Do they have peace at night? What's their health like? You don't know. Look at all these Hollywood people we put up on pedestals, and we look at how great they are and how famous and how cool they are, and they're constantly getting divorced. They went from one marriage to another, or they're finding out they're busted in some weird sex trafficking thing. All these things that go on in the world, and we look like these guys were heroes a moment ago, and now we really start to know that they got nothing on us. So don't spend your time comparing yourself to anybody else. All it does is make you feel defeated. Compare yourself to you. Be the best version of you. Believe again that you have the chance to live the life you really want, because you do.
Yeah, I think with celebrities and stuff like that as well, we have this perception because they've got money or because they look to be living this lavish lifestyle. In the public face, at least, we seem to think that they got this great life, that they're happy, when so many of them are miserable and unhappy, really.
Yeah. I did a presentation last week to a group of people who are out of a job. And I always start my presentations off by asking, are you living the life you really want? And they looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, hey, we all don't have jobs. How could we be living the life that we really want? And I said, that doesn't determine whether you live the life you want or not. Just because you don't have a job doesn't determine that. It determines you have no more money than you had a year ago. But it doesn't mean you can't live the life you want. Because when you get the job, what are you going to do when you have the job? Now you're going to work really long days and nights because it's a brand new job. So during the time you're out of a job, you're picking the kids up from school, you're going to their baseball practice and cheering them on. You're having dinner at the table, you're tucking them in for bed, you're getting a good night's sleep, and you're hugging your spouse and enjoying the family time, maybe visiting with a friend. But when you get your job, all you do is work. Head down. I got to get this. I got to get good at this job. I just got hired. I got to prove myself. Now they want me to travel, and I got all this stuff I got to learn. And now you're not having the life you want either, because you're never home with the family. Again, no matter what you have, it's never enough. So you have to decide, I'm going to live the life I want, regardless of what life does to me. So when I have kids that are at home, it'll be hard, a lot of work, but I'm going to enjoy the life I want. And then when they move away and grow up, I have a different version of enjoying the life I want. And if I have a lot of money or a little money, I'm still going to decide, well, with what I have, I'm going to enjoy it. And it doesn't take a 400 bottle of champagne to enjoy a party with a friend. It could be a cold beer in the back of a truck with the bed down. It does, it's or nothing at all. Just sitting and reading a book with someone and being in their company. We make it too hard. Life is full of things to have enjoy with.
Yeah. I think it starts with understanding who we are and what we want out of life, doesn't it? Again, it starts with looking at ourselves and understanding what we want, rather than looking outward and seeing what everybody else has got and thinking, oh, well, maybe
Yeah.
I'll try that.
Yeah. When you look at your life and you compare to where you were a few years ago, you've probably learned a good bit from what you were, let's say, 5 years ago. And in most cases, we're always getting better, smarter, better at doing stuff. We don't screw up as often. We learn from our mistakes, right? So we're always moving towards that. But if you were really to have intentional life, you'd focus on the things that give you more joy. Instead, we just work a job. I'm just going to work my job. And that's it. I squeeze in whatever else I can do around it. That's lame. Look at the life you want, put that in first, and then have a job that allows you to work around that. I love what I do. I'd do it 10 hours a day if I could. I don't have anything that this is fun for me. I love what I'm doing. But I also love my wife and I love my kids and I love having time with my friends. So you have to have a balance of putting things in so you have a balanced life. It's not just all about work. It's not just all about money. This is where you get to decide, what does your life look like? What do you want to look like? And then go chase it.
Absolutely. And the thing I hate the most is when people put their life on hold, where they, they work and they think, when I retire, I'll do this. When I retire, I'll enjoy my life. I'll spend time with my family.
Yeah.
I'll do these things I've always wanted to do. And I hate that, putting that life on hold. You might never get there.
You might never get there. And I've got a client named Ben who has multiple companies. And he told me years ago, I have built my businesses around my family life. And so I will focus on what I want to do as a husband, what I want to do as a daddy, and I will work everything else around that. And he does. He does. He took his whole family away for a year sabbatical last year and a half ago. And they pulled him out of school and they traveled the world and went to different places. The kids did school online and they lived at weird places and they went from place to place just experiencing life because they wanted to really have a year where they could step back and say, what do we want our lives to really look like? What do we want our family to really look like? And it was just a time to reset everything. Now, maybe you don't have the money to travel around the world, but you could take your kids out of school for a year. They could take online classes. You could homeschool for a year. Homeschool is like 15 minutes of work and then you're done. It's like easy. But you could go do whatever you want to do. Don't say I can't. When you say I can't, you really mean I won't. And when someone says I won't, then you have to ask, well, why not? Isn't that the life you want? Yeah, well, then go do it. So don't say I can't. That's self-limiting. Say I won't and then go figure out, okay, why won't you? And go fix that. But you should be able to pursue that.
Yeah. Or even sometimes it's just, I don't know how. So then your job becomes figuring it out, right?
Yeah. And that's why you be vulnerable and share your story with other people. And you go, this is why I'm not satisfied. And they can look at that and go, what do you want to do with this one? Everyone's gone through the same junk. You're not going through anything someone else hasn't gone through. There's nothing new under the sun. It's the same stuff. It's just a different shape or size or color or flavor, but it's the same stuff. So when you share with someone, the problem is we get so much head trash that we can't think logically. And we have this unconscious bias that we think this is some huge thing. I'll never get it done. But you show it to someone else, you're like, oh yeah, just do this. Oh, really? Because they don't have any emotion attached to your junk. So it's easy for them to have a very clear solution because it's not their problem. That's why you invite people into your journey.
Yeah. And I can't remember. I think was it Roger Bannister, the runner that broke the 4-minute mile? I think he did. The original run. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, until he did it, nobody thought that it was possible, and he couldn't do it. And soon as he did it, hundreds of
Now
people
everybody's doing
then
it.
got on, smashed it. Now everybody does it. Now it's
Yeah.
expected. So, and
Yeah.
I think that's important as well when you have people in your life that have already done stuff. That they've gone there and done it. It kind of breaks that barrier a little bit and breaks the mystique of stuff a little bit. So, you think, oh, I can't do this. But if you've got somebody there that already has, I don't know, quit work, gone around the world, homeschooled their kids, now it really opens that door of possibility.
Yep. Yep. That's why you listen to other people's stories and you find hope in that. The other thing is you don't want to waste an opportunity. This year, a guy who's my age died in his sleep, just died. And hey, we're not old. I'm only 61. That's older. That's not old. And he's my age and he was super healthy. He ran triathlons. Really cool guy. I knew him since high school. And then he just died in his sleep one night. And I was thinking, wow, I guess people at my age just start dying. Just die in your sleep. You don't know what tomorrow has for you. And so I think for us to squander one more day of thinking, well, maybe next year, or maybe if this happens, I'll be happy, or maybe that. Don't let someone else determine your happiness. That's up to you. You determine what you want your life to be like. You put in the things that you care about. You drive the story.
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time kind of driven by society and like what around us and like trends and stuff, don't we? Rather than again, just taking a step back from it and just look it in. We never look in.
I don't know why we do that though. Maybe just because we're thinking there's nothing you can do about it. I really do think there's a spirit of defeat in our world these days. People have given up, like Henry Thoreau said, people live lives of quiet desperation. I don't know why. We live in probably the most advanced, well, we are in the most advanced times of our world. If you look at the history of our planet, we're doing more in technology and getting more things done. We have more benefits, more things at our fingertips than our ancestors ever dreamed of, but we're miserable. How messed up is that? And so I heard you're a little younger than me, but when first technology was first starting to come out, they had all these things about this thing will mow your yard for you. This thing will calculate these things in a fraction of time, and all these things were going to save us all this time. And in life, we're going to be sitting around in lawn chairs just watching the sun go down with a drink in our hand. And all it did was actually was give us more hours to work because we took our work home with us. In the old days, you worked at a building, you worked till 5 o'clock, they sent you home, and you get to be with your family and have a life. Now you work till 6 or 7, because that's what we do in the world. And then you take your computer home and you do some more work at home. What the heck? All this technology just made us a slave. I got a computer in my pocket that constantly barks and yells and burps at me, and it interrupts every thought that I have by text messages and phone calls and things popping up and apps. And no wonder we don't get any chance to think clearly anymore. So we've created this world where we're over inundated with interruptions and distractions. Maybe we don't have time to step back and think about what do I want my life to be.
Yeah, technology's definitely blurred the lines with work, especially where people are taking it home, and there's no off button now. You need to kind of be able to switch off. And even once you finish your work, maybe if you're at an office, you're staring at the screen all day, you get home and then guess what? You're on social media looking at a screen and just your head's in that. You're not living life in the moment.
Yeah. Yep. But that's your choice, right? No one's standing over you with a stick at night, beating you on the head when you're not working. And if you got a company that demands that you work at night or you're fired, you need to find another job. Or if you're not good at it, that you got to take it home to make up for the stuff you couldn't get done during the day, you need to find another job. But that again, that's your choice.
Yeah, and ultimately, some people will have, if they enjoy their work, might want to do work at home, and they might, if you're happy and it's not, making anybody else miserable, then so be it. But I think that'll be few and far between out of the
Yeah.
majority of the population. We all want a bit of downtime. We all want a bit of time with our family or our loved ones, in whatever way that is, or even just some time to go and enjoy some sport or whatever it
Yeah,
is that you're into. And I think that's important for your soul, just to have that little,
it is.
just bit of fun and relaxation.
You got to pour back into yourself in order to pour into other people. If you empty your bucket all day, you've got to go fill your bucket up at night. And you can't go home and do more stuff and continue to drain your bucket. You go home, you got a family, you're caring for your wife and kids or your husband and kids, and you've got bills and you got neighbors and you got chores. And so you get to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock because you watch 3 hours of Netflix, so you don't get a good night's sleep. And you're just constantly wearing yourself out. How are you going to show up and make great decisions at work the next day? You're not creative. At the very best, your butt's in a chair. So you did the responsible thing, you showed up. But the accountable thing would be to get a good night's sleep so you're ready to come back and bring your A game to work. But we're not allowing ourselves to rest and refresh. And we need that if we're going to be our best.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's it's a vicious cycle. It seems to be, at least for. I mean, I've lived it. It's not great when you're constantly tired. You just feel like you're just treading water. You're treading water at work. You're treading water at home. You're not giving anything what you're capable of.
Yeah. And if anyone listening to this podcast is saying stuff like, you don't know my world, you don't understand, hey, send me an email. Tell me all your stuff. And if you're okay with it and you're not going to be offended, I will give you an honest answer where I point out your blame and your excuses and you're saying I can't or you're waiting and hoping. I will help you see it, not to offend you, but to help you see you actually can do something about it. And I've heard all kinds of excuses since I wrote this book. Well, you don't understand my financial situation. You don't understand my boss. You don't understand my spouse. Okay, I get it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm asking you, what are you going to do about it? So if someone feels stuck and they want to talk, they can reach out to me. I'd be happy to help them.
Yeah, we all think our problems are worse than everybody else's, don't we? For some reason, I don't know why that is. I think it's just because it's personal, and I suppose we're the main character in our own life, I suppose. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's a one-man play on the stage and it's all about me and I'm talking about me and listening to me.
yeah, it seems to be the way. So our problems are always worse than everybody else's, and we
Yes.
have this thing that we whenever like if somebody's tired, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. But if someone's tired, it seems to become a competition with people. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
tired. I only had 2 hours sleep. I had 1 hour sleep. It's like it's ridiculous.
Or they'll brag about working late at night. I worked late. I worked till 7 o'clock. Oh, I was up till 1 in the morning last night. Oh, you're worse an employee than I am. Look, if it takes you till 1 in the morning to get your job done, you suck. You shouldn't have that job. Go get another job. Work at the grocery store and bag groceries. If you can't handle what you do in the hours that you're supposed to do it, there's a problem. Either the company doesn't know what they're doing or you don't know what you're doing, but you shouldn't have to work 12 hours a day to get stuff done. Something's wrong with that picture.
Yeah, that's not very efficient, is it? Let's be honest.
Not. And all you're doing is a false sense of security for the company because someday when you quit because you hate this job because you have to work 12-hour days all the time just to get by, they hire someone else and that person's like, I'm not going to work like that. Or they realize how much work was actually being done because you were taking it home every night. And the person that they hire fails miserably because they had no idea how much it takes to do that job. It probably needs two people to do that job. But you weren't being honest enough to say this isn't working and let the company really make a change in a process, in a procedure, in a training, something. You shouldn't have to work 12, 14-hour days to get by.
And even if the company knows it's happening, if you're still doing it and it's not causing them a problem, they're going to allow it.
They're not going to stop you. Some companies will. Some companies recognize that when our employees are overloaded and burned out, they make mistakes. I have a lot of clients that are in the construction industry, and I have a group with safety managers. And, if you're tired, it's just the same as being drunk. And so when you come to work and you're really tired because you didn't get a good night's sleep, and you go up on a crane or you're moving some equipment, and you're not paying attention, you can kill people, and they do. And if you're out partying with your friends and you're getting drunk and you're showing up work exhausted, hungover, you're not top of your game, people fall. They fall off of buildings. Yeah, it's really serious stuff. But even if you work in a cubicle and you're typing emails all day and a customer sends an email and they're mad at you and you're in a bad mood because you're hungover or you're tired or whatever, and you just unleash on them and you lash out, the company's got to clean that up. So we're not doing anyone a favor by letting them get to the end of their rope. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to hit burnout, and they're probably going to quit working for you because they can't handle it.
Yeah, it doesn't work for anybody involved, does it? And short term, again, it's one of those short term things. You'll probably get away with it in the short term, but eventually it's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah. All creativity is found when there's moments of peace and clarity. You don't have creativity in overload. You have mistakes in overload. And we need to create an environment where our employees are focused and productive. Every single company out there can be more productive. You don't need to hire anybody else. You need to train every single person on your company to do it the right way, efficiently, and not make mistakes that we have to redo and rerun and do over again. And if you could build a team that feels engaged and empowered and understands the why behind the work they do, they can crank. So instead of going out and hiring another body or two, train the people you have. Let them have freedom and knowledge and empower them to do their best. They'll be happier because they won't be so frustrated with their job. You'll get more productivity and you'll save money. It's a win-win-win.
Yeah, and if people are good at their jobs as well, or if they feel good at their jobs, they have more pride in it as well, and they enjoy what they do. They'll get more done generally.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that whole Maslow's pyramid of the hierarchy of needs, where at the very base of the pyramid, you show up for work to get a paycheck, so you have food and shelter. But every part of the pyramid, once you have it provided for, it no longer motivates. So when I get the paycheck, now you got to give me something else. Now I want a title. I want recognition. I want praise. So that's the second part of the pyramid. But that only works for a while because I can only promote you so far, and then I can only praise you so often. So what at some point, that person still doesn't find it rewarding and they're no longer motivated. And the only thing that really keeps them is when you get to the very top of the pyramid where it's self-actualization, where someone comes there because they feel like they're being their best version of themselves. They're finding completion in who they are through the work they do. They find joy in the work they do. When you create a company where your employees will self-actualize, it's hard to say. Um, you can't you can't keep them. You can't keep them back. They're just going. They're thinking, "Hey, we should do this. Hey, you should do this," and they're focused and they're caring. And they don't say, "Well, that's not my job." They say, "Well, let me help." And the self-actualized employee is amazing. And you can get there, but you've got to be able to create a place where people feel that it's safe and they understand what they're doing. Again, that's leadership. That's our job as a CEO.
Yeah, I think the military. I don't know what the military do in the US, but in the UK they're really good. So you do recruitment wise, you'll do an aptitude test. So they'll figure out which kind of jobs you're suited for first. So that'll suit you as a person. Then they train you in the core culture of the force wherever you're in. If you're in the Royal Air Force or if you're in the Navy, whatever it might be. And then they train you how to do your job, and then they continue to train you. They mentor you, and they give you continued professional development throughout. And I think that kind of format is really, really good because they're getting the right people for the job. They're teaching them you know what the company or what the organization is all about. Then they're teaching you how to be really good at your job, and then they continue to help you develop. And I think that journey for people is really, really powerful and helps them to connect with whoever they're working for.
And that's why they're so independent to be able to go do things. You think they're all robots. They're not. You put a person out in the military in a war zone, they don't sit and follow orders. Someone's shooting at them. They have to know how to do something. Something all of a sudden a plan changes and the enemy comes around here. They don't run back and go, what do I do? They have to make decisions like this. So we've trained them to think, not to be robots. But we have enough clarity and discipline and rules and procedures so they are empowered to do it well. Companies don't take the time to train people anymore. The person who passes your burger through the window at Chick-fil-A has more training than most employees do. And when you start a new job, you're supposed to somehow know everything about the company you go to work for. You might know the skill they're hiring you for. Let's say you're a purchasing manager. You may know how to purchase and negotiate, make contracts, but how does that company do it? What's the rules of engagement for this company? What's the things that make the difference in this company? We don't take the time to train that. And then all we do is spend our time correcting this new person who's really, really smart that we spend a lot of money hiring and trying to go, oh, no, don't do that. Oh, we don't do that. And don't do that. They feel frustrated. You feel frustrated. Take the time to train somebody so they can be successful.
Yeah, I think that mentoring phase is really important as well, where you're kind of helping people as they hit the ground, because a lot of the time training is very prescriptive, but it doesn't cover the nuances and the realities of delivery. Is what I
Yeah,
find.
each situation's different. So, like in the military, they'll make you make your bed. Like you have to make your bed really, really, really well. I have a young man that I know who was in the Air Force Academy, and he made his bed. He finally got it to where when he got review, it passed. He slept on the ground for the next 3 weeks because he didn't want to mess up the bed, and he got it just right. And it was that much work that he's like, I'm not going to screw it up. But what the heck do you need to know how to make a bed for when you're going to fight in a war? You don't. You need to know how to follow directions. You need to know what we do so you can think. We do this because of this. We do that because of that. And you're training them to process things and to follow with discipline. So when you get out in the field and you tell them, go do this, they know the way you do this is this way. And I think it's very simple for us as a company to just assume everyone's going to just show up and be magically everything we ever wish they would be. And it's just not.
Yeah, I can sympathise with that story. I did 10 years in the Royal Air Force, and during my basic training, once I got my bed right, I slept on the floor for 9 weeks. 9 weeks, I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, that's right. Same
No,
thing. That's awesome. I thought it was just him. I guess that's a normal thing.
no, when you get it right, you don't want to mess with it, so you just get on the floor, get a roll mat out, get on the floor. That'll do.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. What's one thing about success and accountability that most people get wrong, do you think?
I think they mistake the word responsibility with accountability. Responsible is different than accountable. Responsible is doing something. Accountable is owning the outcome. So when you have an employee that works for you, if they show up at work and sit down at their desk, They're being responsible because I said, I want you here at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's your desk. If they do that, they're responsible. Good job. Now, if they spend the whole day making mistakes, being rude to people, not paying attention, taking a bunch of breaks, goofing off, checking their Facebook page, doing things the wrong way, not following rules, that's not accountable. But they're responsible. They're there. And with today's workforce being remote, we've got to create a world where people want to be accountable because we can't watch them. In the old days, you could walk down the hallway and go, get back to your desk, Johnson. That's the third cup of coffee you had today. And we could, put our thumb on them and tell them to obey. Well, those days are long gone. And especially now when someone's at their home, they could be running Uber Eats all over around the country while they're supposed to be at their desk doing something. I've heard lots of stories about people having two jobs at the same time, two full-time salary jobs. Like, that's wrong. And you're supposed to be available to your company all day long, and you've committed to two companies. But we've got to create a world where they understand what it looks like to be accountable because they're not going to be in the room with us. And the only way you're going to do that is by creating expectations of their job function, setting clear deliverables, having rules of engagement, training them up on how to do things efficiently, and then having measurables and reporting things that we report in on a regular basis. Create a world where they become accountable to the end outcome, not babysitting them on what they're doing by the hour. There's a big difference between responsible and accountable.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this whole culture of working, just being there for time. And the companies that do that, I think, that just causes problems because the person is twiddling their thumbs half the time, not doing anything, which, is ultimately they're there to provide an outcome or, an end result is what you're trying to achieve. So surely we should be going, this is the end result. This is the reward maybe for getting there, or, rather than just focusing on time only. We're very, very heavy on, just paying people for time.
But we can't measure how much time it takes to do anything. If you don't understand the process, it could take you 3 hours. If you're really good at it, it could take you 5 minutes. So we don't know how much time they should be doing anything. If I told you to go chop down a tree, I could look at you and come back an hour later and you haven't done much. I could know you're not working very hard. Or I could think, well, maybe you should get a chainsaw. You're out there with the little tiny handsaw and you're trying to go at it. Maybe I haven't given you the right tools. Maybe because I'm not taught you how to do it right, you're doing it so slow because you're doing it wrong. Maybe I haven't trained you. And if I haven't taught you the philosophy behind doing it so that it doesn't land on my house, then it's on me for not having set you up to win. So if we're going to build a culture where people can work remotely and do it well and own it, we've got to be really clear as to expectations. We've got to train them. We've got to give them the proper tools, and then clear and compelling communications as to what it looks like to do the job with excellence. But that takes a lot of work. And most leaders don't even know what they want. They can only tell you when you did it wrong. They can't tell you how to go do it right.
Yeah. So my uncle's got he's been very successful in manufacturing and glazing. All right, so he's very from the manufacturing mindset of getting things through KPIs and getting so much produce through and stuff like that. And what he used to do, he used to jump on the machines and get involved. So he'd get involved and he'd be talking to people and get involved, seeing how quick you can do it. So and he'd have competitions with people to see if he could beat them and stuff like that. But all he's doing, he's gauging how quick we can do this at full tilt and how average we should be pushing it through. So then he's got an idea in his head of how quickly they should be working. So then he set his own standard, but they've set it alongside him and he's made it enjoyable and fun. But then he's figured out how much we should be producing. So he knows if they're going below, if something's going wrong, or if they're overproducing, or how well they're doing. But it's I think that's part of it. You need to know your processes and how long they take, and allow not only how long they take as a one-off, but allow that kind of range of motion, because you'll have high performers, you'll have low performers, etc.
And even if your shop is customized where everything's unique, you still know placing the order takes this, getting the materials takes this, packaging it takes this. There's still an awful lot we can know and we can optimize. And then even if it's a custom shop, you can always still say, well, based on a history, this usually takes 4 hours. So we'll gauge it for 4 hours and see how it goes. There's always ways to be, again, back to optimizing our business. And I think employees value that because I don't want to be set up to hopefully make you happy. I want to know that if I do my best, that you'll be happy because I do want my boss to be happy. It makes my work relationship better, it gives me joy. But if I don't know what to do to please you, it's frustrating. No matter what I do, I feel like I don't make you happy. That makes them not want to be there. People leave companies because of bad bosses, not because the process is bad or not. Sometimes it's about the money, but it's usually because of bad boss, not telling them how to do their job, not appreciating the work they do, not recognizing them. It's not that hard to do that.
Yeah, I think you need to understand it properly yourself, don't you, before you can, start judging how well people are doing, really. And I think taking that time initially to understand, what's involved in the process and how long it might take, and the effort involved will really give you a good level of empathy as a boss, really, to figure out, where you should be at.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so it's a difficult one though. It is a difficult one, I suppose, and especially like you say with this custom things and this stuff is you know different, takes different times, and I suppose when you're in the leadership position, a lot of the time you're so focused on what you're doing, you don't want to get involved necessarily in everything else.
Yeah, but you are the leader. You got to own it. So whatever it takes to get the job set up and do it right, you got to commit to that. But then again, that's why you hire great people, because you don't want to have to repeat it over and over again. You want to bring on teams, let them know what it takes to do the job, and delegate it to them while you go create some other vision and some other opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. um if you could eliminate one obstacle from people, from that keeps holding people back from accountability, what would it be?
I think it's pride. I think people don't want to look, I don't think people want to be known for all the things that aren't going right. But I don't know anyone who's got a perfect life. And most of my friends have problems, challenges of one or another. Great couple, love each other, solid human beings, messed up kids. Great business owner, everything's going good, angry at the world, doesn't know why, lost his faith, bitter at the world. There's just stuff. Everybody's got stuff. I always describe it to my clients like we all walk around with a big bag of crap over our shoulders, from our childhood to our journey through life and divorces and bad bosses. And it just stays with us. We take it with us everywhere we go. We need to create a place where people feel like it's safe to be real. But the pride of people prevents them from wanting to be honest and go, I don't like my life, or I don't like this, or I need help. And without being willing to be real, you're never going to get help and you're never going to get it done. So I think pride is the biggest obstacle.
Yeah, we've got to be willing to be vulnerable, haven't we? And ultimately, that's what part of what I'm doing on my podcast. I'm willing to be vulnerable and open, and share my life, my experiences, my weaknesses, my failures, and to encourage other people to do the same. Because I think it's really important. Because I think once you are willing to be vulnerable, you'll build better relationships. Your life will get better. People will have more empathy for you and more understanding. You seem to get more support. Things just seem to kind of fall into place a little bit when you're willing to do that.
I think you feel better too, because you're carrying around this stuff you think nobody knows, cares about, understands, and they do. But all it does is make you feel alone, makes you feel frustrated and sad. And when you lay it down and acknowledge it and make a plan to change it, there's hope. And people will rally around and encourage you. So don't be so prideful as to not be real, because with that journey of being honest and vulnerable and transparent, there's a chance to improve it. It works.
Absolutely, and I think it encourages other people around us to be vulnerable as well, because they feel safe. Then once you bring your wall down and you stop
Yeah,
presenting this this fake world, or wearing a mask as I call it, then I think other people will generally bring theirs down as well. But you've got to kind of lead the way with it.
I agree. And if the people you hang out with don't respond that way, you probably need to find some better friends. Sometimes, after enough of a life of you feeling like a loser in your marriage, in your health, in your job, you start to think you're a loser. And when your friends around you don't respond in a way that affirms you, encourages you, that adds to that lie. But you were born a 10 and you're going to die a 10. You're fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, and you are awesome. But because you didn't do a great job as a parent, because you're not doing a great job as a spouse or as a son or daughter or friend or student or business owner or employee, all those things that we do for roles, we start to think that we're not great. But you will never perform any role higher than what you think you are. So if you think you are a 5, No job you do, no role you play will ever be higher than a 5. But if you can go back to acknowledge that you're a 10, everything else can improve. And that's a great journey because there's hope in that. When you were a little kid, you thought you could be Superman. You could jump off of buildings, fly through the air. And then life got in your way. And now you start to doubt yourself. And then you didn't do so good here. And you got divorced there. And you lost this job. And you lost this money. And now you start to think you suck. You don't suck. You just made mistakes. We all make mistakes. But you own it. And you go back to the fact that you're a 10 and that you can do this. And you start working on it. And you move up from whatever your score is in all these categories bit by bit by bit because you already are a 10.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with leaving people behind. Ultimately, if we outgrow them and, we're growing in different directions, it's okay. I think we struggle with that, with like kind of letting people go. And it's not in a horrible way. It's not,
No,
it's not that we don't love them anymore, we don't like
right.
them anymore, but sometimes our journeys just take separate paths, and we have to walk that path, and we can still, have contact with them here and there, but we might not want to spend as much time with them if they, if it's having a negative impact on who we are and what we're trying to achieve.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And coming back to the kids thing, yeah, I mean, you just watch kids; they're brilliant, and they just live in life. They're great. They're great to watch. They're just after it. Just they don't care whatever
Yeah.
comes into their
Yeah.
world. They just make a way to enjoy it and get the best out of it. And we
I
could
watched
all do
my
with a bit
nephews
more of that.
I watched my nephews jump at the other day. They were standing next to my niece. So these are my great nephews, and they're just 3 and 5 and 7. And they just jump vertically. They just jump for no reason. They just jump up and down. And what are you excited about? I don't know. just jumping, They're having a great time in life. And then life gets in the way and we don't jump anymore. Now we just kind of mope around feeling like everything sucks, and it doesn't. You got to go back to the joy of a child. Your life is good.
Absolutely, I want more of that joy, more of that childlike joy. Honestly, my daughter, she's 7. She had we had a parcel delivered, and it had a big cardboard box that it came in, and never seen somebody so happy. Just loved the box. It's turned into stables now. It's all developed and everything. But honestly, she loves it, and like just the joy and the imagination to just like we just be like, oh, box, but they just love it, don't they? And they just honestly played
Yeah,
with it for absolute hours, and it's still in the corner now. It's got like all shavings in it for little toy horses and everything. Now it's a whole thing.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's how we should live. Enjoying life in the mind of a child. Yeah.
Absolutely. Robert, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you and find out a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, our book is available on Amazon and bookstores around the world. And you can go to our website and buy it from us at nobodycaresbook.com. And then when you're there, you can send me a note. There's a contact form. I'd love to hear from you. If you listen to the podcast and you learn something or you have questions, I will answer every single email that comes my way. And you can take the satisfaction assessment on that website for free. So I encourage you to go do that and really be really, really honest with where you are today compared to the vision of what you want your life to be like, and score it honestly, and then go share it with somebody or share it with me. Email me a copy of it. I'd love to know. And then for your particular podcast today, I have a domain that is nobodycarespod.com. And if people fill out the contact form on that page and use the code word Aaron Perry, I will send them a copy of my book at no charge. If you really want to read it and you're really going to apply it to your life, I will mail you a copy of my book to the first 2 people who fill out that contact form, even if it's all the way in the UK.
That's beautiful. I'll make sure that we get the links in the show notes for people just to make it a bit easier for people to find that. I'm going to bring this into a close now. Just bring this into land. What's your final thoughts? Have you got anything that you'd like to share with us, Robert?
Don't be lazy. I think we don't really see how lazy we are. Lazy is the kind of thing that we do when we're like, I don't know, I'll just do this. But if I was to say, hey, what's your day going to look like? And you had a plan, that wouldn't be your plan. But I think often we just have become lazy. There's no zeal. There's no energy. And satisfaction creates energy. So the more satisfied you are, the more energy you're going to have to live the life you really want. So it's a ripple effect. go take the satisfaction assessment, see where you're not satisfied, and then start working on it to increase your satisfaction, because satisfaction gives you the energy so you're not lazy, so you can actually pursue the life you really want. And that's what I want for everybody. I'm already pursuing the life that I really want right now. And I've been doing it for years, and my clients are doing it. I want it for you. So don't be lazy. Go out, take the assessment, and start working on having the life you really want.
Robert, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you ever so much for being on the show. I've really, really appreciated it. Thanks for giving us your time.
Yeah, this was wonderful. Thanks for having me on your show.
My pleasure. Take care, Robert.
Hey, listeners, if you've been enjoying They Not Like Us, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave a positive review and subscribe. It might seem like a small thing, but for an independent podcast like this, it makes a huge difference. Your support helps the show get discovered by more people, allowing us to bring on even more amazing guests and continue sharing content that resonates with you. So if today's episode or any past ones have sparked something in you, hit that subscribe button and drop a quick review. Your feedback keeps this community growing, and I'm so grateful to have you along for the ride. Thanks so much.